Guess it's time to clean out Panda Express stock of orange chicken. Watching a million YouTube videos while you binge on fried chicken? What does that spell? Laura! Why is nobody cheering? Hey everyone, I'm Laura and welcome back to my channel where I talk about all things weight loss, mental health, and take you along on my 200-pound journey. If you'd like to know more about me and my journey so far, make sure to check out the rest of my videos linked in the description box down below. And if you want to follow along on my journey, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. You guys, my lighting is horrible and I apologize. But my apartment building is not optimized for natural light. Like literally, it sits north to south. So basically the sun just kind of does an arc over us and we get hardly any natural light. So if you're wondering why I look like I live in Dracula's lair, that's why. And at the moment, I definitely can't afford one of those like studio light systems. Your girl's on a budget, paying off them student loans. Okay guys. Today is my first official mental health and weight loss video. Why is nobody cheering? There we go. So because I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, I wanted to make sure that the mental health and weight loss specific videos are more recognizable. So their thumbnails are going to look a little bit different. That way you guys can easily spot them. As you can see, the mental health videos will have a white background with colored boxes, whereas all my other videos have a colored background with white boxes. Why do I feel so racist when I say it like that? By the way, everyone, thank you so much for putting up with my neuroses. But for the purpose of this channel, I'm just gonna call it my aesthetic. Because I personally believe if you can reframe your obsessive behaviors, do it. Just kidding. So today I thought I would start with step 1 of any weight loss journey. Watching a million YouTube videos while you binge on fried chicken? No. As if you haven't done it. Will you please shut up? That is not the point of this video. Well, we know what her go-to defense mechanism is. Anyways, back to the actual point of this video. Say it with me. Denial. What does that spell? Laura. If you don't shut up, I am going to show you what denial looks like when you don't get to watch Ji Chang Wook's new K-drama tonight. For a year. Well, that shut her up. Hey, y'all are being really inconsiderate up there, trying to film a video. So today we're going to be talking about how to create a personalized weight plan. I think it's safe to say that for most people, myself included, when you're first starting your weight loss journey for the billionth time, it's really easy and really tempting to just go with the new fad diet or exercise program, or following the advice of your favorite influencer. Yes, I am completely aware of the irony of that statement, but thanks for listening to me anyways. But today I'm going to show you the therapeutic techniques I use every time I have a client come in that really needs to work on changing their habits or certain behaviors. And these techniques also helped me to create my weight loss plan that I'm using right now. And just a disclaimer, I am not a doctor, I am not a nutritionist, I am not a physical trainer, so even if you use my techniques to come up with your own plan, please make sure to share it with the appropriate professionals. Please and thank you. This girl ain't about to get sued. So basically, this therapeutic techniques has 3 steps. Step number 1 is all about identifying strengths. Specifically when it comes to weight loss, looking at past successes and strategies that worked, and also your interests. Number 2 is identifying past challenges and barriers. And these include challenges that ultimately led to us giving up on our weight loss journeys in the first place. Number 3 is using the list of strengths that we've come up with in order to proactively plan around past barriers and challenges. and also do some additional brainstorming if needed. Because I personally am a visual and kinesthetic learner, I am going to kind of show you how to do this by walking you through what my own process looked like. And absolutely feel free to get out paper and pencil and do this along with me. Just make sure to pause as we go along. Step number 1 again is identifying strengths, specifically past successes and strategies that have worked and things that we're really interested in that we truly believe will be successful. Now, when I completed step number 1, I focused on 5 topics. First, diet and nutrition. Second, exercise and workouts. Third, mental health. Fourth, strategies that worked. And 5, things that I'm interested in trying. For diet and nutrition, I came up with the following list of things that have worked really well for me in the past. High protein, drinking tons of water, making cheat meals a social occasion, having 1 meal a week where calories don't matter, and making that meal social, keeping my carb intake to about moderate, drinking protein smoothies because this really helped me to be able to get in more fruits and vegetables. And finally, recovering from cheat meals or binges with a low carb day the following day. For workouts, I listed things like plyometric, weightlifting, group classes, having a workout buddy, which I'm totally accepting applications for a virtual workout buddy, so exercising earlier in the day so I have more energy. Doing workout challenges. I really liked super hard, intensive workouts where I sweat a lot. If I'm not absolutely drenched in sweat, I don't feel like I've worked out. Low intensity exercises that I actually enjoyed were things like dancing and going for walks. Not doing workouts I hate, changing up my workouts frequently because I adapt really fast, and just having a competitive component. Now, when I was doing my list for mental health, it was really difficult because, to be honest, I was not managing my mental health well back then. So instead, I just focused on strategies that I know work for me now, especially when it comes to managing my negative emotions and thoughts, because heaven knows that was a challenge during all of my weight loss journeys before. So some of the mental health strategies that work for me that I came up with included things like intentional self-care every single day, building awareness of my triggers, using my coping skills before the negative emotion actually sets in. And what I mean by that is when I have been exposed to something that I know triggers me, I try to implement my coping skills before I even start feeling anxious or depressed or those really negative thoughts just seep in. Keeping quotes and positive affirmations around the house. Coming up with positive affirmations that work for me and using them often, which I've started posting on Instagram, by the way. Validating my emotions and my thoughts and my body's reaction to things, which includes when I have thoughts about binging or bad cravings. And mindfulness, which helps a lot with that, by the way. And so on and so on. For my list of successful strategies that have worked for me in the past, I included things like waking up early, rewarding myself with books, using things like mint and drinking a lot of water to help curb my cravings, brushing my teeth right after dinner, mainly because I'm too lazy to brush them again. So even when I get hungry, I'm like, nah, then I'd have to brush my teeth again. Leaving my debit and credit cards at home on those days when I know that it's going to take everything that I have not to pull into Taco Bell. And sharing my goals and progress with others. Just a side note about my successful strategies list, I didn't come up with all of those on the first go around. I actually came up with some of them during the time when I was planning around barriers and challenges, and I was asking myself, what have I tried that has worked in the past? So for example, one of the challenges I came up to was really bad cravings. And when I looked at my list of strengths, I realized I didn't have anything on there. So then I asked myself, okay, so what have I tried in the past when I've had bad cravings that has actually worked to stop those cravings or to at least make them manageable? And I came up with eating things that have mint in them, like gum or Tic Tacs or things like that, as well as drinking tons of water. And so it just wound up being added to my original list of strengths. And now for past barriers and challenges to weight loss. I don't think there's enough hours in the day to go over all of my past barriers and challenges, but I will share with you some of the biggest ones that I came up with. So for this section, I really focused on anything that led to me having bad cravings or going on binges or not working out or following my weight loss plan when I should have, or even just the things that ultimately led to me giving up on past weight loss journeys in the first place. And some of the things that I identified included pushing myself too hard physically, still working on that one, emotional eating, i.e. mental health, because I was absolutely using food as my primary coping skill for everything. Super bad cravings, which yes, a lot of the times were tied to my emotions, so could be tacked on to the one before. But there were times when I just felt like they weren't necessarily tied to emotions, and it was just me at the grocery store or driving around, and the next thing I knew, my car would take control and pull into the nearest McDonald's and order a 20-piece chicken nugget meal before I could even stop it. And because I didn't want to hurt my car's feelings, I would just eat it. Meal prepping was also super overwhelming for me in the past. Rewarding myself with food was definitely a barrier. All or nothing thinking. I would feel extremely guilty every single time I had a cheat meal or missed a workout, which also ties into mental health because technically all or nothing thinking is a cognitive distortion. Whenever I got sick or injured, it just seemed like that was always a huge barrier because 90% of the time I would just give up. Trying to go from eating an entire large pizza by myself one night to the next night chicken, kale, and sweet potato. The holidays. And crash dieting. There was literally one time where I was eating like 800 to 1,000 calories a day. So now for the fun part. Creating your plan. I personally started by planning around the barriers and challenges first, but you are completely free to start off by looking at your list of strengths and start coming up with the bones of your plan. Just make sure that you're focusing on diet and exercise and mental health. And the way you do that is super simple. For example, starting with diet, just look at your list of strengths and say, okay, what has worked from the past? Pull those things out and write them down. So for example, for me, it might be I'm going to eat 100 plus grams of protein every day, drink a gallon of water every day, and so on and so on. Now for planning around barriers and challenges, which like I said, you can either start your planning with or you can end it with. So for this step, you are going to go over each of your past barriers and challenges and create a quick plan around each one. And when you're creating this plan, the first thing that you want to do is look at the list of strengths that you've come up with and see if anything that you've listed can address that barrier. And if there isn't anything on the list, then asking yourself, has there ever been a time in the past where I have been able to successfully navigate around this barrier? And if so, what did I do? And then make sure to add that successful strategy to your list of strengths. And if there's never been a time in your past that you were able to successfully get around that barrier, then what you're going to do is you're going to brainstorm some ideas. So asking yourself, what could I try? Do I know anyone in my life who has successfully managed this type of barrier? You can even do some research around it for ideas. And once you have a list of 3 to 5 ideas minimum, then choose the one that you think will be the most successful to test out. And you can always try something different later if that doesn't work. And now for a few examples of what that looked like for me. One of the barriers that I came up with was in the past, I had a tendency to push myself way too hard, way too soon. Now we know from my list of strengths that I prefer workouts that are super intense and super hard, which means that this barrier is essentially in direct opposition to a strength. And when something like that happens, I always say, make that strength your goal. What are the baby steps you're going to need to take to reach that goal? So I knew that addressing this barrier was extremely important, even more so than in the past, because I am morbidly obese and it's really simple for me to push myself too hard and get injured. So I looked at my list and I said, okay, are any of these exercises that I put on here that I actually liked? low impact enough that I can do them now. And the plan that I came up for that specific barrier was I'm going to start out by walking 1 mile per day and slowly up my frequency and intensity and duration. And then I will also slowly change up the types of workout that I'm doing as I lose weight. So from my list of strategies, I used walking, dancing, and intentionally changing up my workouts in order to avoid my body adapting. And again, this is obviously something I'm still struggling with. Another one of the challenges that I identified was being completely overwhelmed by meal prepping meals. Now, I didn't have any strategies on my list of strengths that could be used to really address this, so I had to do a little bit of brainstorming. And I came up with ideas like freezer meals, going through our local meal prep business, and doing OMAD. And I chose OMAD because I was already basically eating that way anyways, and so it would more naturally fit into my lifestyle. Plus, it's not hella expensive. Another example of a barrier was rewarding myself with food. I would literally be like, oh, I lost 5 pounds. Guess it's time to clean out Panda Express stock of orange chicken. Anyways, I knew from my list of strengths that rewarding myself with books was a strategy that worked really well for me in the past. So I decided to add reward myself with a book for every 15 pounds lost to my plan. So just to review, when you are planning around your past barriers and challenges, you want to go through each one individually and come up with a plan that either comes from your list of strengths, asking yourself what has worked for you in the past, and if still nothing, brainstorming some ideas and choosing one to test out. Hey guys, Future Laura coming at you just to say real quick, in order to keep this process less overwhelming, if you found that you've identified like 50 barriers and challenges, my advice would be to hone in on the top 5 to 10 challenges and barriers that have led to the worst outcomes, like epic binges or falling off your weight loss journey. It can also be the ones that happened most frequently or were the hardest for you to be able to get through. So just focus in on those ones, and you can plan around the other ones as you see them coming up in your current weight loss journey. And if you identify new barriers and challenges, then plan around them as well. The whole point of this process is to be proactive rather than reactive, because when we're reactive, let's be honest, we tend to react in some not so healthy ways. Now, if you're like me and you started with planning around your barriers and challenges, you may be looking at the plan you've come up with and being like, all of the barriers and challenges that I planned around were in the diet category or the mental health or the exercise category, and the other ones are just empty. So then you want to take a look at your list of strengths and fill in the gaps. So for example, for me, my diet and nutrition section was fairly empty. Really, the only things that I'd added to the diet category when I had been planning around challenges and barriers was things like eating in a 16 to 1900 caloric range and transforming my diet slowly by picking 1 to 2 things each month to focus on doing more. So for instance, for my first month, I decided to focus on limiting added sugar, but all of that a diet plan does not make. So then I looked at my list of strengths and added things like eating 100 plus grams of protein per day, drinking a gallon of water or more a day, using protein smoothies to get in more fruits and vegetables, making all of my cheat meals social, and making sure that I'm eating at least 1 meal a week where my calories don't matter, and I chose Sunday dinners with my family. So that checks off 2 of my past successful strategies, which is 1 cheat meal a week, making it social. I also added recovering from any cheat meals or binges that I might have by eating low carb the next day. So does that make sense? Just from planning around barriers and challenges, I just didn't really have a lot in that diet section, so I needed to beef it up a little bit. All right, guys, so here is an example of a weight loss plan. I broke mine up into 4 sections: diet, exercise, mental health, and then just any other challenges or barriers that aren't necessarily related to any of those categories. Now, obviously, your plan may be more detailed than mine. It might be less detailed than mine. It just really depends on what you need to have in place in order to be successful, to set yourself up for the best chance of success on your current weight loss journey. Also, guys, just a note that these aren't the only sections you can have on your weight loss plan. You can have non-scale victories. You can have long-term like exercise goals, weight loss goals. You can have a mission statement. You can even put stuff on here like how you're planning on staying motivated or dedicated. Just this plan is completely customizable to you and what you need. And now you have a very individualized plan that, I don't know, to me has a much higher likelihood of being successful because you're being proactive and you're planning around things that are probably going to come up during this weight loss journey, but you're also using strengths and successes and things that have worked for you in the past. And I hope that I made this as understandable as possible. Honestly, I wish I could just like do this with one of you and record it, because I feel like that would be even more useful to really be able to see it from start to finish. But in the meantime, if you have any questions at all or anything that you're confused about, please make sure to comment below. Okay guys, so that was a lot and I hope that this is useful to you guys. As always, if you enjoyed this video, let me know by subscribing and giving it 2 thumbs way up, and make sure to tap on that notification bell so you can join me next time. Bye everyone. We got this.